Ladies and gentlemen, no, it's too late with Alan Mosley.
Yeah. Good save.
Ruined it.
Welcome back to It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by the #1 producer in late night. It's Dave Wilimowski. Dave, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there, you know. It seems like I'm getting a little more hours at work, which is nice, you know, get some summer money stacked up, but I think it might just be a ruse. I don't know. How you doing?
How's the pool looking? Get the pool ready?
we put that up Monday, and then
Yeah.
Tuesday it was like 89 degrees. It was perfect, except
Woo.
the water was ice cold. So
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
Perfect timing.
see, we don't really get into the pool down here around that because it's like, you know, if our pool isn't bath water hot, it's like, you know, maybe next year.
Oh, this is tap water cold.
No. Boy, a lot of stuff going on in the news this week. But before we get to any of that, guys, let me tell you about tonight's sponsor, which is Fox & Sons Coffee, which you find at foxandsons.com. If you use promo code ITL, you get 18% off your orders $25 or more. Shipping is always free on orders of $37.99 at foxandsons.com. Use promo code ITL. Now, I happen to have it on good authority that those prices are about to change. And so you had better get your goddamn coffee. Like,
yeah.
You know what's so cool? I actually saw on social media just the other day, somebody had posted a picture of a whole bunch of bags of Fox and Sons coffee. And it said, "We just got our latest haul from Fox and Sons. You know, thanks, Steve." In promo code ITL. It's like, wow.
Oh.
Now if we could just get people to support our own goddamn show, yeah, as much as they support our sponsor, then we'd be good. And the way they can do that, of course, is they go to the PayPal link, patreon.com/Alan Mosley. You can subscribe on the Twitch channel, which we used to advertise the Twitch channel all the time. And we kind of got out of doing it because we just assumed everyone was here. Because a lot of people do watch the show on Twitch. Yeah. But not everybody does. So they got to go to twitch.tv/Alan Mosley TV. You can use your... Yeah.
Look, that guy loves the show.
Yeah. He's living his best life. I love that guy. God, everybody's talking about the whole Trump verdict. See all that crap?
Yeah.
Guilty.
Oh, yeah, even I heard about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if Dave knows about it, then... I mean, you're geographically closer to the events unfolding than I am. So I feel like you should tell me what's going on.
I'm still not sure what it's all about, but yeah, guilty. That's what I heard.
My understanding of it is that he was tried for a misdemeanor that they upgraded to a felony despite it being past the statute of limitations because it could affect the 2016 election, even though it took place in 2017. And then even though he was being tried on a bunch of different things, the judge said you actually don't need to be unanimous. If each of you find a different thing wrong, we'll just count that. Like that just counts.
It's like
we count that as
store.
good.
Mix and match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pick 5 to save. That's right.
Yeah.
I guess in this case, pick 12. Yeah, pick 12 to save. Yeah. And then he's scheduled for sentencing like July 11th. With, of course, obviously the election's right around the corner, and people are like, "Well, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna be like, oh, well, you get house arrest?" It's like, well, how is he supposed to go campaign? But then they're like, oh, but then he's, of course, immediately going to appeal. No matter what happens, he's going to appeal, and then that's going to make its way through the appellate court, and then that's going to go to probably to the Supreme Court and all that stuff. And the thing is that. And the only reason I even brought it up at all is that the thing that you keep hearing everybody saying is, well, look what they did to the president. If they could do it to him, they could do it to anybody.
Whoa.
And we're like, yeah.
They do?
Yeah, like we know. Yeah. So, like, you know how sometimes you hear people say like history didn't start yesterday, or like history didn't start on this day. History didn't start on October 7th for anyone who may be interested in that date. History didn't start on January 6th. History didn't start on September 11th, whatever. Well, like history didn't start on the day that Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 counts. So they've been screwing regular people the whole time.
All along, yeah.
Yeah. All along, it was me. I was the one. Yeah. So I wanted to tell a couple of quick stories before we take our first break. The first one is I ordered some food the other day, and I've really cut back on doing that because the cost, right? Like everything's so expensive, and then you go to like DoorDash or whatever, and it's like, okay, well here's your $11 burger, that'll be $94.99. So
fees, yeah.
But the other day I got an email like, okay, I have Amazon Prime, which by the way, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to our Twitch channel for free. Yeah, so just FYI. But I got a letter from Amazon that said, if you have Prime, you now also get Grubhub.
Oh, I saw that. I got the same one.
Yeah, you just have it. And I was like, well, I guess if I'm not paying for it, then that's cool. And then I remembered somebody had given me like a little postcard thing they got in the mail. They were like, "Hey, I don't ever use this. Would you use this?" And it was one of those deals where it has like a a code, like a one-time use code to get like a free whatever. And they're like, "Well, here, I'm not going to use this. You can use it." I was like, "Oh, well, I get like one, like one free delivery or whatever." So I guess if I'm not going to have to pay any extra, I'll order some food. And so I pull up Grubhub, and the Asian place is on there.
Oh, the
Ninja Mongolian hibachi
sushi
grill. Yeah.
It's just samurai. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I get a little chicken lo mein, get a little, get one of my usuals. And they bring it out here, and you got the little tracking app where you can see the little car going down to the little dot on the map that is the ninjas.
Oh, you can see it all?
Yeah, and then you see the we picked up your food, so here comes the little car driving up the road. Well, the car is like right outside my house. Like I'm looking at the map, and the car is on my street, and my phone rings.
Oh,
and so my phone rings, and I pick it up, and because no one calls me. no one good. No one calls me.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no. You'd better be telling me the unfortunate news that you or someone else has passed away. Like, if you die, Dave, you can call me and let me know.
All right. I'll let the family know. Okay, if I do.
Yeah. And it's the Grubhub guy saying, "Hey, man, I got your food." Because he's Elmo. "Hey, man, I got your food. I'm lost. I can't find your address." And so I go like, "Well, where?" Because now keep in mind, I'm trying to be nice and be like, "Oh, hey man, where are you?" Even though I can see on the goddamn track, he's right there. Like I'm looking at him out the window, saying, "Hey man, where are you?" And he goes, "Because okay, so I live at 625, right?" So he's like, "Well, I see, whatever 636," and I'm like, "Okay, well, if you're going uphill, the odd numbers are on the left and the even numbers are on the right. And 625 is..."
It's an odd number.
It's an odd number, so it should be on your left. I was like, so if you see which by the way, just as a little addendum, all of the unit numbers here are all 100, like the letters are as big as the Hollywood sign. Like the number 625 are bigger than my living room. Like that's why I don't have any living space. It just says 625 in my front door. Like I have to open the 6 in order to get in my apartment. And so I'm like, well, so the odd numbers will be on your left. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't see it." It's like, okay, if you're driving uphill, you see the odd numbers on your left. And okay, I'll give you, like, we're playing like Guess Who now. It's like, okay, it's after 623, but before 627. It literally,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that 625 would be nestled right there. So finally, I hear skirt, which is never a good sign, by the way. And it's like, okay, all right, I got it. I was like, okay, great. So I go downstairs. Like, I'm being honest, I still have the little thing checked for contactless delivery. I was never into that. I don't care. COVID's not real. Like, sorry, now we're demonetizing you. COVID's not real. But it's more that I just think you're beneath me, so I don't want you to look at me with your own eyes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't.
That's understandable.
Don't fucking look at me. Okay. All right. So anyway, but since we were just on the phone, now I feel compelled to go down there to be like, "Oh, hey, glad you found the place, whatever." So this dude gets out here. This guy, like, I don't know what body fat percentage is like supposed to be good for someone, but I'm pretty sure 86% is not good. So this guy gets out of his car, and then the car does the thing where like the tires reinflate because he weighs more than the chassis.
The frame comes up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's got my food or whatever. Thank God it wasn't opened. He brings me my food, and he goes, "Yeah, man, I've never seen a place that was like this before, where it's like across the streets you're in the 30s or 40s, and right here it's the 20s." And I was like, "Well, like it's a curve that goes uphill, and there's like half as many units on the left as there are on the wide end of the curve on the right. So that's why the numbers go up higher on the right side, because there's more doors, there's more addresses. That's why. And he's like, yeah. I was like, well, it's whatever, but odds left, clearly visible. And then he drops this bomb on us. He's like, yeah, well, I was a cop. And it's like, oh, you don't say. Oh. Okay, so I just had to ask. I was like, so how does that inform this? Yeah. He's like, well, I've just never seen this before. It's like, addresses or... It occurred to me as this lingered on that this is how they raid the wrong house and kill innocent people.
Oh.
Is this guy.
None of these numbers make any sense. Yeah.
Like, if you've ever wondered, like, how does that happen when it happens? Now you know. None of these, like, how was I supposed to know that the odds were on the opposite side of the evens and that 5 comes after 3 and before 7? Yeah?
Let's take a stab at it.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, yeah, don't take a shot in the dark. That's for sure. Oh, my God. Hey, Dave.
Yes, Alan.
What time is it?
Oh, it's time for Meme of the Week.
I'm glad you remembered.
Yeah, it comes early this week.
Oh, first time in Israel?
Oh. Oh. Is that how they do it?
Hey, I mean, I don't know. That's a them problem, not a me problem. But we do have a bonus meme. Check out the bonus meme. Hey, girls, it's Theo, the gay predator drone. Here to wish you ethical sluts a happy Pride Month from everyone here at Raytheon Technologies.
Oh.
Yeah.
They care.
Boy, if there was ever a time for a laugh react, that was
that would have been great.
Yeah.
Jeez, I wish I would have thought of that.
How are we doing on time? Oh, we're already out?
We're doing, yeah.
Yeah, we're already out of time then. Well, let's just go ahead and answer the viewer mail then.
I mean, the interview's kind of long.
Oh yeah, we're at exactly an hour right now. Right this second, starting the viewer mail.
Perfect.
Jonathan Carranza writes, Dear Alan and Dave, why are most of Sydney Sweeney's fans men? Well, actually, that's a two-part answer to that. The first part is that men obviously have good taste.
Mm-hmm.
Big mommy milkers. But second of all, it actually goes deeper than that. It's that because that's the men being fans. Well, why doesn't she have a bunch of women fans? Jonathan, I'll tell you why. Because if there's one thing that women hate more than men, it's other women.
It is.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. They hate her. But it's not her. They hate her. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, what she represents.
Yeah, which is not themselves. Yeah. If it's not themselves, then yeah. Laldiri writes, Dear Alan and Dave, y'all ever water ski? Dave, ever been water skiing?
Oh. You know, I live right near the lake here, and no. I'm like I was saying earlier, I'm not sure if I've ever actually been on the lake. I've been in the lake, like swimming, or splashing around. But yeah, never on skis. No.
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I've been on the water, but never on skis. I've never worn skis or skates in my life.
Of any kind.
Of any kind on any surface. Wow. Like, I have feet. I can move myself. I'm not Greg Abbott. I can project my own motion, All
right.
Yeah. So, hate to get all political. All right. Wow. Andrew Avery writes, Dear Alan and Dave, do you have to pay to get a jump for your car battery, or is it no charge? Are you positive? No. You can't not laugh at the punchlines and then laugh for whatever it is Andy's trying to do. God. Celeste Dennis writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is your favorite berry? Dave, do you have a favorite berry?
Favorite berry? I don't know. I'm not a big fruit person, but I guess I'd have to say strawberries, just mostly they can be an experience. You ever go to a strawberry field and pick your own? It's kind of fun. You eat as much as you can while you're picking them and then pay for whatever you got in the basket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they have more recipes, I feel like.
I would say Chuck.
Chuck?
Mm-hmm.
Berry.
Correct.
Okay.
Aaron Kinder writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is the worst weather condition? Oh, it's got to be tornadoes.
Oh. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, hot and humid is pretty bad, but I guess tornadoes.
I actually have a really cool local tornado story to tell, but I have to tell it in the after party because we ran out of time before this segment started.
Yes, we did.
So no time for that.
It's occurring right now.
No time. Yeah. What? I mean, when that one did, I pretty much reacted the same way as I am right now, which is I just silenced my phone and just went back to doing whatever I was doing. Well, no, as soon as I knew for certain that it was right there, then I did the next best thing, which is went out on my porch and watched.
Yeah. Scope it out.
Yeah. Mary Lynn Wilomowski writes, Dear Alan and Dave.
Oh.
When getting takeout, whether from drive-through or inside the restaurant, do you check that your order has been fulfilled correctly before heading home? Dave?
Historically, I did not do that. I live and I take what fate deals me.
Sure.
But if I'm getting an order for the family, I've learned that I should probably take a little look in there. Otherwise, I'm going for another ride, which I'd like to avoid. Yeah, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do it when I'm picking up for the family.
Yeah. So you personally would just
I don't care.
Suffer in silence like a man.
Yeah.
But these whiny ass kids and the old battle axe. Yeah. I like pickles. Where's my pickle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you are, Mary. I'm on Team Dave on this one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm creating a bad night for you. It's what I'm doing.
I can do that just fine on my own.
All right. And finally this evening, Ryan Seifert writes, Dear Alan and Dave, which part of the pride flag represents straight white males? Well, actually, straight white males have an entire flag of their own.
Uh-oh.
A bunch of you guys bought some when you were here for the live event, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, the old stars and bars. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. If you fly that flag, you're a man. And if you're against that flag, you're a bitch.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I imagine how happy I was to see how many men were in our audience. Even the ones without penises going out there, buying those flags. Yeah. Did our part.
Yeah. Basically, Dukes of Hazzard now.
You know what? I think we deserve to get like some kind of a thank you from them for all the people I brought.
Oh,
you know? Yeah. Because you
brought a busload.
Yeah, the tour they would have been for like 8 people, but for us it was like 58 people.
Yeah. We crowded that place.
And not a single thank you for increasing our racist ranks. This used to be a proper country. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of being a proper country, we're going to be right back with tonight's guest, Eric Brakey, Executive Director of the Free State Project, right after this commercial break. Go away. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Email us at info@alanmosley.tv. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our guest this evening is arguably, I think, one of the most politically successful libertarians alive. Serving as senator for the 20th District of Maine. Fun fact, Maine is the closest U.S. state to Africa. So how about that fun little factoid? But he's leaving his life as a lizard person behind to become executive director of an organization you may have heard of. It's the Free State Project, whose annual event, Portfest, is coming up June 17th through 24th. Eric Brakey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Alan, I'll tell you what, it's not too hard to be one of the most politically successful libertarians because there aren't too many politically successful libertarians. It's a small club.
Well, of course, you know, when I say politically successful libertarian, well, you ran as a Republican, which of course means that you're nothing but a statist. You're exactly the same thing as Mitch McConnell. Absolutely not a dime of difference between you. But speaking of that, so I kind of wanted to take a quick little trip down memory lane for folks who may be new to you, which would be shocking. But here's a little image from the 2012 Ron Paul presidential campaign. I'm going to read a quote for you, Eric. The Portland Press-Herald said this was the most successful political coup in recent Maine history. What is he talking about when he says that?
Well, that is a walk down memory lane. Well, in 2012, I was the state director of the Ron Paul presidential campaign in Maine and part of a real ragtag crew of liberty lovers when we took over the entire state Republican Party at the Maine State Republican Convention, elected delegates to the national convention for Ron Paul. Basically we won almost everything that wasn't nailed down. And it was, that was the moment I realized that I was in this for the long haul and I wasn't getting out of politics anytime soon. So, victim of my own success, I suppose.
Well, that's an interesting takeaway from that because I see it from both perspectives. I know a lot of people who were big Ron Paul supporters back in the day that used to say the whole Ron Paul cured my apathy thing and all that. But I think for a lot of those people, the moment that the race was over, and obviously we didn't get to have a President Paul, they went right back to apathy, right? They're like, oh well, gave it a shot. Guess it just can't be done. The system's rigged. Whatever excuse you want to use, you're done. But you took the opposite route. You said, no. I see some glimmer of hope here. I'm going to get more involved. So why did you do that, Eric? Why didn't you do like everybody else, which was there was the ones who went to go be Bernie bros, and I think for those people, they didn't really care for Ron Paul. They were just looking for an anti-establishment candidate. But I know a lot of people who I consider personal friends of mine who, after those races, never voted again, never got politically active again, felt they were more jaded, not less. So what about you?
Well, on the one hand, I certainly did get to see the depths of corruption within the National Party establishment, in particular, when they kicked a bunch of us delegates out of the convention. They stripped away our delegate badges and gave them to Mitt Romney supporters. I certainly saw how corrupt things were at the RNC. But I suppose for us, perhaps it helped me a little bit to have recognized that while we failed in our very high aspirational goal of getting Ron Paul elected president of the United States, there were many very tangible, smaller victories we achieved along the way, including electing Ron Paul supporters to a majority of the Republican State Committee, electing Ron Paul supporters to the National Committee, and really kind of setting up and planting our flag for the liberty movement in the Maine Republican Party for many years to come. I'll tell you, think before all of that, of course, I had come up to Maine on the Ron Paul campaign. It was where my family goes back for generations, but before that, I'd been working. I was pretty fresh out of college. I'd been working for a year and a half as a professional actor in New York City, and I put that aside, what I thought was going to be temporarily, to go help Ron Paul. And I thought when the campaign was over, I was going to go back. I was going to go back into the theater, which was always my first love. But when we kind of took everything over, I realized I couldn't walk away from that, and I had to keep working with these people to advance liberty. And of course, I'd heard that Rand Paul was going to be running for president 4 years later. And so I said, all right, well, we had so much success this year in 2012, how much further can we push it? I saw, to go from what we saw in 2008 to even a much bigger effort, more mainstream effort, bringing a lot of new people in 2012. I thought, how much more can we achieve in another 4 years? And part of me thought, I could just be some ragamuffin activist for Rand Paul 2016, or I could be a more effective activist for him by being a state senator endorsing Rand Paul in 2016. So I ran for state senate and won a race there, and I've just kept going ever since.
Well, that's obviously the actual winning part of that is the main bullet point of that answer. One thing I did want to ask you before we kind of start moving on into the future a little bit is you think back to 28 and then 2012 and obviously the excitement that was behind sort of the Ron Paul movement. And different people use different language. Of course, obviously with Ron Paul and his campaigns, you would maybe call it the Ron Paul movement. But then it kind of shifts over more broadly to the liberty movement. And you hear that's a term that gets used all the time. I'm not a big fan of that, by the way. I don't know. I'm kind of over the whole liberty movement thing. I kind of think I look at things more at a local microcosm type perspective. I do work for the 10th Amendment Center, and so we're always looking at things from a state perspective. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because that's where you shifted your focus. But if we were going to put a bow on just specifically the Ron Paul angle, do you feel like, and I know the Libertarian Party convention was just a weekend or two ago, and Ron Paul was there, and I know he still gets a lots of cheers wherever he goes, which is certainly well deserved. But do you feel like the Ron Paul movement is truly still a thing, or do you feel like that's something that requires a torchbearer, and that kind of torchbearer doesn't really exist, if that makes sense?
I still think very much it is a thing. I think it's still alive and it's still growing. And I think you can look at different institutions across the country to see that. In particular, for a time I worked at Young Americans for Liberty, where we were mobilizing new people, young people, college students, bringing them into the movement. They were getting excited reading about Ron Paul and his ideas, and they were going out and knocking doors to elect Ron Paul-influenced candidates for the state legislature across the country. And, when I first ran for the state senate back in 2014, if you were to tally up all of the Ron Paul-style state legislators across America, maybe you could count to 10. You could get them on two hands if you're being generous. Today, there's hundreds. There's over 300. And they're spread out in state capitals across the country. And now it's very lopsided in New Hampshire because of the Free State Project, which I'm now the executive director of, which is a concentration strategy, a migration strategy, getting libertarians across the country, this diaspora of people who love liberty, to move and concentrate in a single state, the live free or die state. New Hampshire has a competitive advantage against all the others in the sense that now, like the state legislature there, a quarter of the state legislature are libertarians who run and get elected as Republicans, and I would say very much, for the most part, are in the Ron Paul mold. So I would say, the Ron Paul revolution is still alive. The beautiful thing about it, certainly there isn't a central figurehead anymore. Ron Paul still is in a spiritual sense. Of course, he doesn't take an active role in it like he did when he was running for president. But I think that's the beauty of what Ron Paul did, right? When he was finishing up his time in Congress and his last presidential campaign, people in the liberty movement, and I still do like the moniker, the liberty movement. I think it speaks to our unifying principles. But people would come to Ron and say, Dr. Paul, I want to continue fighting for liberty. Tell me what to do. But of course, here's the thing about Dr. Paul is he's not a central planner. He doesn't like telling people what to do. So he said, I don't know. You got to figure it out for yourself. But there's a job out there for you. You just have to find it. And so many people did. Now, for me, that was running for state senate and getting involved directly in electoral politics. And that's what I've been doing for the last decade. But that wasn't the path for everyone. Some people, they took that flame of liberty in their hearts and they said, all right, I want to end the Fed. That was a big part of Ron Paul's message. And how are we going to do that? Are we going to pass a law in Congress to get them to audit and end the Fed? Well, I mean, some people still try. Good on Thomas Massey for sponsoring the audit the Fed bill. But ultimately, at the end of the day, people found different paths to do it by pioneering cryptocurrencies and fighting for sound money in the local level. And boy, when you look at like where Bitcoin is today compared to, just these ideas that were just almost just like ideas on paper of competing currencies when Ron Paul finished his time in politics, it's come a long way, and the Liberty Movement has been a big part of that, especially in New Hampshire, which is really the cradle of Bitcoin. So, boy, the Ron Paul revolution might succeed in ending the Fed with a lot of the pioneering that's been done since. Other people, they said, I just want to raise the next generation of people who love liberty, and they've been developing homeschool communities and I'm just saying there's a million different ways people have been taking this basic idea of liberty and saying, how do I bring my talents and the position where I am in life? How do I use my abilities and my position in life to advance these ideas? And so there is no one central figure, but I think that's the strength of the movement, is the decentralized nature of it. It means that there's no one single person that the CIA can just take out to kill the movement. The movement continues on because it's in the hearts and the minds of so many, and we continue to teach those ideas to new people. And that's why I'm confident that, in 100 years' time, while Mitt Romney may have won the Republican presidential nomination in 2012, he's going to be an asterisk somewhere in a history book, whereas the name of Ron Paul will be something that people still talk about.
Well, I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of asterisks that I'm waiting for their time in the history books to appear. But I wanted to move forward a little bit. So you and I discussed really briefly before. I follow you on Twitter, and I was looking at some of your tweets over a couple of weekends ago during the Libertarian Party National Convention in D.C. What a beautiful town for them to have it in. But I was enjoying some of your tweets because I felt like they were from the perspective of like a UN peacekeeper who was just simply observing what was going on around you as it was unfolding. But there was a couple of tweets that you've put out recently that I wanted to expound upon, which, by the way, you're more than welcome to say whatever you would like to say or not say about the convention itself or the results. I'm just telling you, I can't do it. I've said what I have to say. I will say no more. But there was this one tweet in particular that you put out here where you had said the Achilles heel of the Libertarian Party is its partisanship. Imagine that. The Mises Caucus has tempered, but still met many delegates who viewed me as a traitor. Viewed me as a traitor to the Liberty Movement because I don't run for office, parentheses, and lose, as a registered Big L libertarian. I know Dave Smith has made the comment recently that there's a lot of libertarians who are allergic to winning or allergic to relevance. So how bad has that been? Because I would think, just from where I'm sitting, that if somebody like you or me wants to run for office and we're trying to break into that kind of duopoly mold and we're trying to get some votes, that at the end of the day, sure, you're probably more often than not, you're going to pick one of those two parties because you got to get on the ballot, right? You got to have people not just dismiss you out of hand, but you also want libertarian voters, maybe people who are usually don't vote, people who just say, they're all the same. Perhaps you're counting on some of those people to support you, but you ran into people that are openly antagonistic. They think of you as a traitor. How much has that been your experience, or hopefully that's been few and far between?
Well, I mean, I will say, I think the individuals I was thinking of who made it very clear that they were not happy with me, that was not the bulk of my experience at the LP convention. In fact, I think that most people, at least those who knew who I was, people were coming up to me all the time and saying how much they appreciate what I'd been doing. And frankly, I guess a lot of people around the country have been watching floor speeches that I've been giving from the floor of the Maine Senate. And I got a lot of appreciation about that. So that was actually very encouraging. And I think that's actually a sign of maybe some of the sentiments that have been changing within the Libertarian Party since the influx of the Mises Caucus. But there does seem to be, I think, a lot among a lot of the maybe the LP partisans who have been in the LP for a long time. I sometimes wonder if they are missing the forest for the trees, right? And I think actually I was at a lunch where Dave Smith was speaking, and I thought that he articulated this very well. And this was one of his criticisms for, he was trying to give like a good faith criticism to folks in the LP about how the LP could be better. And this was one of his things, is like, we've got to stop being so partisan, right? Because ultimately, right, if you claim to be the party of principle, the principle is more important than the party. If you are of the attitude that we're the principle of party of we're the party of principle and the party is paramount, we're going to do everything for the party, and if you aren't working to advance the party, then you are a traitor, you are an enemy. Well, then you can't claim to be the party of principle, right? You're putting something else first. You can't be a servant of two masters. And so this is how I see the liberty movement. I see the liberty movement as much bigger. I'm a big tent libertarian. It's bigger than one political party. It's bigger than the Republican Party. It's bigger than the Libertarian Party. And the Libertarian Party can play a role, a very effective role. It can be a powerful tool in that movement, but it is a tool of the liberty movement. The liberty movement is not a tool of the Libertarian Party. And I think that frankly, I think a lot of the folks in the Mises Caucus who came in thought were very effective in recognizing the one, that Ron Paul Republicans and Ron Paul Libertarians are in fact on the same team, and we are working towards the same vision of what we'd like to see in our country, and that we shouldn't be at cross purposes with each other, and we should look for ways to work together in synergy, right? And so the Libertarian Party can be very effective in a few different ways, right? They've had some success getting people elected as registered libertarians in local races across the country. They have been successful in certain state races at being the spoiler, right? Running a libertarian candidate against a neoconservative Republican and causing the neoconservative Republican to lose, and sending a message to the Republican Party that if you keep running terrible candidates like these, we are going to make sure they lose. So that you should nominate and support liberty Republicans so that you can actually win. I think that's great. And then using kind of federal races, the race for president as a messaging opportunity. Some people think, and I'm not going to wade into it, but some people think maybe there was a missed opportunity this cycle with how the presidential nomination turned out, but I'll leave that to others to decide. So I do think that there are ways that Liberty Republicans and Libertarian Party members can work in synergy to the same for the same goal. As with a kind of carrot and a stick approach, maybe a good cop, bad cop approach. I'll be the good cop working inside the Republican Party, like winning the support of Republicans, and they can be the bad cop saying you need to nominate people like Eric Brakey's and Rand Paul's and Thomas Massey's, or we're going to make it difficult for you to win the general. So I think there is value in that, but to become partisans for the Libertarian Party, I think misses the point of what we're trying to achieve.
I definitely see that. Again, full disclosure, I'm not a member of the LP. I've never been a member of the LP. And I think one of the takeaways from last week's drama is I know a lot of people were not happy with who received the presidential nomination. And then I heard on the other side of the camp, a lot of those people saying that, yeah, but he did get the nomination. So if you're going to be a good party person, you should support the nominee of your party. And look, I'm not going to lie and say I don't understand that perspective. The only thing I keep hearing in my head, though, is that, but we have 100 million Democrats that are going to vote for the Democratic nominee, no matter how bad that nominee is, because they're going to put their party first. And we have 100 million Republicans who are going to vote for the GOP's nominee, no matter how bad they are, because they put their party first. Is that what the LP wants to be? Is that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, obviously people are entitled to make their own decisions. It's your vote. You get to cast it however you want. And certainly, but I'll just say, I mean, look, I've been working through the Republican Party, and I've never been a Republican partisan. I don't put my party first. I put liberty first. That's why I voted against Mitt Romney in 2012. And there have been plenty of times I've voted against the Republican candidate. never for a Democrat. Oftentimes, I mean, 2012, I wrote in Ron Paul as a protest vote, right? Because I thought that Mitt Romney getting elected would be a setback for the liberty movement. But I do believe in strategic voting, and I think that in every race where you're casting a vote, I mean, I think there's to some degree, and I understand it. We just want to vote for the person who's like the avatar of our values and our beliefs. And some people say, well, I will never vote for anyone who's not a libertarian, right? But I think that's basic level thinking, and I think that we need to think a little bit more strategically and ask ourselves, what is the most libertarian outcome, and what outcome moves the liberty movement forward? Now, personally, and again, I just want to be clear, I'm speaking on behalf of myself in this moment and not any organizations that I work for. Personally, I've been very intrigued by what happened at the LP convention with both Bobby Kennedy and Donald Trump coming to the convention, begging for votes from libertarians and making a case for why voting for them and supporting them would lead to libertarian outcomes. Now, I think that Bobby Kennedy mostly did it by trying to appeal to our ideals and talking about where there's shared common ground. And certainly, I think that's an effective approach in some ways. But I was also very intrigued by what Donald Trump put forward, which was maybe a little less speaking to our ideals, but a little bit more like, look, it's more transactional. It's like, look, I want your votes. Here's things that you want. I'll give them to you, right?
Sure.
It was much more, let's make a deal, right? He said he'll commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, something that libertarians have long asked for, and certainly I've been asking for. I gave a personal note to President Joe Biden when he came to visit my Senate district, asking him to commute Ross Ulbricht, and I never heard anything back. I didn't expect to hear anything back, but I think it's very revealing that I never heard anything back. And
Sure.
Donald Trump is promising to commute a sentence. Donald Trump promised, he said he was going to put a libertarian in his cabinet. I mean, I don't know what cabinet position it is. It could be like, maybe put someone in as transportation secretary. It would be a great irony, right? A libertarian finally makes it to the White House and is only in charge of the roads. But seriously, though, a cabinet position with an actual libertarian would be a big deal. I mean, especially for someone like Donald Trump, who I would say for Donald Trump, his best quality is also his worst quality, which is how influenceable he is. I mean, on so many of the policy decisions he made, he seems to be so influenced by the people that are around him, that have spoken to him last, which is why when John Bolton and the neocons were in his ear, he was like gearing up for a war with Iran and like doing things that really escalated things there. But when Tucker Carlson and Rand Paul were in his ear, he walked away from that war with Iran. So I actually think that having libertarians in his orbit, especially since he's been stabbed in the back by the neocons, and I think is recognizing that he shouldn't have too many of those people in positions of power around him, I think having more libertarians in his orbit, like he said, he wanted to put a libertarian in his cabinet, and he said also throughout his administration, and put libertarians in a position to recommend more commutations and pardons. I think those are things of value. He also promised to protect self-custody for cryptocurrency and to block CBDCs, which I think is, talk about trying to end the Fed. I certainly wish that he was talking about, more directly going against the Fed. He talked about auditing the Fed before. He never followed through on that. So I want to keep his promises, take his promises with a grain of salt. But he's proposing a deal, and I think that libertarians would be foolish to not consider it. And for a historical parallel to this, I keep thinking about, I love history, not just American history. I'm like all men in America. I think about Rome a lot. And I think one of my great heroes in the Roman Republic, and I think should be a hero of every libertarian, is Cato the Younger, the last defender of the Roman Republic, who was very much like the Ron Paul of his age. He was uncompromising in standing for his principles. He abided no tyrants. He fought both against the corruption of the Senate and also against the rise of populist demagogues who he was very concerned about. And there was a point in time where Pompey the Great, who I personally, some people could say I'm wrong in drawing this parallel, but I kind of think of Donald Trump as a Pompey the Great kind of figure. He's a populist, but he's more interested in his own personal glory than perhaps direct kind of power itself. And Pompey went to Cato and asked him he wanted to have a marriage to join their families, to create a political alliance, a coalition between Cato and Pompey. And Cato said no. He wouldn't even consider it. He thought it would have besmirched his principles, and so he said no. And historians look back at this as one of the great mistakes that Cato made, because what happened as a direct result of that is that Pompey went and formed an alliance with Julius Caesar instead, and that directly led to the fall of the Republic that Cato loved so much. So I think that as libertarians, we should be much more open-minded about forming coalitions and not just saying we're going to be over here in our own corner with our 3% of the vote, where we're going to feel so great that we're so pure and so wonderful as we accomplish nothing. We need to be open to forming coalitions with people in areas of common ground. Donald Trump is proposing a coalition. He wants that 3% in order to secure victory, and he's promised some tangible things. Now, maybe it's fair to say what he's promised is not enough. Let's keep negotiating. Let's talk about a pardon for Edward Snowden. Let's talk about dropping charges for Julian Assange. Let's talk about some other things. But I think it's really worth exploring making a deal there.
Well, on that note, I was planning on saving the Trump talk till the next segment, but there's more meat on that bone, so it's okay. But because you had also brought up strategic voting, which I know some of our more anarchist libertarians right now are just shaking listening to this interview, but that's okay. We're going to power on, but we're going to be right back with more from Eric Brakey right after this commercial break. Don't go away. It's Too Late is proudly sponsored by Fox & Sons Coffee. Fans of It's Too Late use code ITL to receive 18% off orders of $25 or more. Shipping's always free on orders over $37.99. Visit them online at foxinsons.com. That's foxinsons.com. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're joined once again by our friend Eric Brakey. I wanted to share another tweet that you had put out just recently. Of course, all the news this week about the Trump verdict. Guilty on 34 counts. I know we're all stunned that such a thing could happen in the great state of New York. You said, I was undecided, but today's events have convinced me I am voting for Trump. Now, beyond just his own verdict and how you feel about that, which you're more than welcome to comment on. But as you had already brought up, Trump's speech at the convention, which was obviously met with a lot of boos and derision. You knew that there was going to be some of that in the audience, but you used the words transactional, which I think is the right word. And I think that both for a lot of right wingers in general and also libertarians, I think for both of those parties, transactional politics is foreign to a lot of them. I think for a lot of whether it's the boomer conservative who's a constitution on one side, or for the libertarian who is holding their nose to vote at most, but they're the hardcore principle type. Keep in mind, I've run into plenty of libertarians that think Thomas Massie is indistinguishable from Mitch McConnell. So for those people, you just can't talk to them. We're not talking about those people. But even so, transactional politics is a bit foreign for them. And so when you say to them, well, hey, if you vote for me, I'll pardon Ross Ulbricht. I know that a lot of people are very black-pilled and they say, oh, he won't do it. He's just lying. That's a campaign promise that won't be kept. Obviously, I don't know. I obviously hope that he would keep that promise. But I'm going to turn it over to you with this. We actually ran a poll for this exact point, and it was just an A or B poll. The poll reads, you can do one of these two things. You can either A, record a 5-minute message guaranteed to be seen by every American voter that explains to them in your own words why Orange Man bad, or you get to vote for Trump with a 100% guarantee Ross Ulbricht is freed. Now, I'm thankful to say that over 90% did actually pick B. They'd like to see Ross Ulbricht get freed over their own egotistical remark. But it certainly wasn't 100%, because there are still people out there that think, oh, if I could just spread my message a little bit wider, that would be better than tangible results. So I guess I'll turn it over to you there. Voting for Trump, do you believe his campaign promises, or at the end of the day, do you think it really matters from the perspective of, well, at least he's engaging? Who else is even engaging the libertarians?
Yeah, well, I think, there's a few things to unpack there. I mean, first of all, the simple fact that he's trying to make the effort to reach libertarians is certainly more than has been done in the past. Certainly, Mitt Romney never tried to win over the libertarians. In fact, he actively, and his campaign actively made it clear that libertarians weren't welcome. And so he lost. In fact, he lost by a spread that was less than Gary Johnson was the Libertarian nominee that year. Gary Johnson beat the spread between him and Barack Obama in a lot of key states. So actually, I think that was great for Republicans to see that libertarians do make a difference on the margins. Because and the truth of it is, swing voters get catered to. And we are in a unique position because we have this voting bloc that has been independent of both political parties, but still shows up in the final votes. It's you have to be a fool if you're not in one of the two parties, if you think you can try to bring that group into your coalition, to not try. I will say, for Trump, on the question of like Ross Ulbricht, I see this a lot. People saying like, well, do you really believe that he's going to commute Ross Ulbricht just because he made a promise? I mean, maybe he's just going to take our votes and then like not do it. But I guess I asked, like, why would he not do it? I mean, it doesn't really cost him anything, right?
Sure.
Who's really going to be, who is really going to, what political capital is he going to lose by commuting the sentence of Ross Ulbricht? He's not going to lose any political capital because it doesn't cost him anything. Now, I would love to see like him promise like to commute the sentence. I'm sorry, to pardon Edward Snowden and drop charges against Julian Assange. I mean, that would actually go even further that would actually cost him political capital because the neoconservatives, those are their prisoners, right? And frankly, I would love to see a little bit more from Donald Trump, that he is in fact choosing the libertarians, the liberty wing of the GOP, over the neoconservatives, right? That he's willing to alienate the neoconservatives. Because my long goal in the Republican Party ever since 2012 has been to, this was just a term someone else suggested to me today, and I actually love it, to colonize the GOP and kick the neoconservatives off their land, to take it from them. Because of just, I don't know about you, but I remember I grew up under the George W. Bush era, and I have never forgiven the neoconservatives for what they did to so many good patriotic Americans by preying upon our virtues, our love of our country, our love of our Constitution, in order to get us to do very evil things, invading other countries that never attacked us, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, right? I've never forgiven them. I don't want to see them anywhere near the levers of power in Washington, D.C. ever again. And I'm willing to consider coalitioning with the America First movement, who I think we have some common ground on foreign policy, if that means that we are pushing the neoconservatives out. And I think that has been happening over the last 8 years now since Trump first won the Republican nomination, as more and more the neoconservatives have been shifting over to the Democratic Party. And I just like to see the rest of them go and the libertarians come in and take their place. Obviously, there are going to be big difference between kind of the MAGA America First movement and libertarians, but once the neoconservatives are defeated, we can deal with those differences.
Well, I definitely, again, to all our lovely libertarian brothers and sisters, for those out there that are hearing us talk right now, that are saying, oh, but Trump did X, Y, and Z, or oh, he talked a good game on this, but then he fell short on that. Like, look, I hear you. I agree completely. There's lots of things that I wish Trump would do differently, or I wish he would have done better in his first term, and maybe he wouldn't have had a skipsies on his way to his second term. But with that said, could he have been better on foreign policy? Yes, he could have. Was he better than George W. Bush? Yes. And I think more importantly, look, I definitely think Trump is an egotistical bastard. But being an egotistical bastard, you know how he operates in a certain extent. And I think he wants to be better than George W. Bush on things like foreign policy. So at least the door is cracked there. Whereas, again, Joe Biden's not showing up to the convention. He's not promising anyone anything. So I definitely hear what you're saying. I definitely hope for the best. Now, I know that he has said, and not at the convention, but in interviews even since then, they have talked about looking at dropping charges on Julian Assange. Again, that's just talk. You and I could sit here 6 months later or a year later and find out that that's all it was talk. I hope it's not. You had also mentioned, I wanted to remind myself, you had mentioned banning CBDCs. I mean, I'm on board with that. Obviously, that's something we cover for the 10th Amendment Center all the time, is state legislation trying to ban CBDCs, which is great news. Again, is that just a campaign promise? I don't know, but who's even talking about it? That's one of the things that I approach people with. It's like, look, most people, you're never even going to hear them say the phrase CBDC, or they don't even know what it stands for. Kamala Harris doesn't even know what a CBDC is. Joe Biden's not going to talk about it. So at least it's entering the public consciousness, which is better than nothing at all.
And Donald Trump, who is very much a populist, and that he wants to be popular with the his base. I think he's been surprised when he was mentioned CBDCs at rallies. I think people seem to understand that Vivek Ramaswamy is the one who kind of put this in his ear. He's been surprised how much his base knows what CBDCs are and hates it. So I think that he would be very motivated to block CBDCs and he says he's going to protect self-custody from people like Elizabeth Warren, who he calls Pocahontas for her fake Indian heritage. I think it's worth understanding just how important that is at this particular moment in time, because we are in a moment of transition where what is the future of our monetary system? Is it going to be a decentralized grassroots currency like Bitcoin that is controlled by the people, or is it going to be a centralized CBDC Fed coin, right?
Sure.
If we can succeed in blocking CBDCs for the next 4 years and protecting self-custody and a healthy market environment for cryptocurrencies, then by the time that Donald Trump is out of office, it might be too late for CBDCs to catch up. So I think that it is actually very important at this particular moment in time. And I also want to add one thing slightly off the topic of CBDCs, but going back to what we were talking about before. Morton Blackwell is a guy who founded the Leadership Institute, if folks are familiar with that. And he has said something that I think is very important for people who want to have an effect in politics to understand. He says there's two ways to try to go about getting the policy outcomes you want. We can try to get all of the right people elected who will do all of the right things because that is what is in their heart. In their heart, they're just libertarians. They love liberty, and they're doing it because they know it's the right thing. But let's be honest with ourselves. This is politics, right? If we're sitting around waiting for all the right people to get elected, we're going to be waiting a long time because politics attracts power seekers. It does not. People who love liberty run for the hills. We don't instinctually run for office, right? We want to be left alone. So power seekers run for office. So that path is never going to be viable. But the path that does work is to shape the political environment around the wrong people to make it politically expedient for them to do the right thing. And I've seen this work so many times over. That's how, in the Maine Senate, we got constitutional carry passed in Maine, right? It wasn't because every single politician who voted for constitutional carry said, well, in my heart of heart, I believe in the Second Amendment, and I know that people should have the right to defend themselves. No, it was because we shaped the political environment around them and made it very clear that their constituents expected this of them, and if they did not do so, they would not be viable for re-election, and ultimately that's what they cared about. So they voted to give us back our freedoms and liberties because it was in their own self-interest. And that's the environment we have to create around the political class. And so understood in that context, someone like Donald Trump, even though he's not a libertarian, and in his heart of hearts, certainly, I'm sure we have many things we disagree on or just come at from very different places. But even someone like Donald Trump can be of service to the cause of liberty if we do a good job of shaping the environment around him. He says he wants our votes. That's a leverage point that we have. He's put a deal on the table. Let's take the deal or let's negotiate for a better deal. Let's do one of the two. But to just walk away and say we're not interested, we're too pure for that, I think is a big mistake.
Well, speaking of big mistake, we're almost out of time, and we haven't even talked about, of course, the most important topic, which is the Free State Project. God forbid I have the executive director of the Free State Project on the show and not even mention it. At the time of this episode, we're just a couple of short weeks away from another annual Pork Fest. What's coming up this year at Pork Fest?
Well, I know that the name of your show is It's Too Late, but I want to say it's not too late. Pork Fest will be in 2 weeks. Tickets are still on sale at porkfest.com. That's pork with a C, not a K, because it's short for porcupine. And this is our 21st Pork Fest. It is a family-friendly freedom festival. 2,000 of your favorite libertarians from all across the country will be descending on Lancaster, New Hampshire for a week-long. I would say, we're going to be at the Rogers campgrounds, and it is kind of like the Libertarian Burning Man. If you've never been, there is nothing like it in the country. We're going to have tons of great speakers: Jeffrey Tucker, James Bovard, David Friedman, Jack Hunter, so many more. Dr. Naomi Wolf was just announced. She's going to be speaking there. Ron Paul is going to be speaking. It's his first time speaking at Pork Fest. Now he's going to be virtually attending. We're setting up a massive screen, and he's gonna kind of zoom in. But also there will be opportunity for question and answer with him. But this is a great event. It's not to be missed. If you love liberty, even if you disagree with everything that I've said today, because we are a big tent liberty movement, and we have everyone from ANCAPs to more kind of liberty Republicans like me to left-wing libertarians. There's the whole gamut of the liberty movement is at Pork Fest, and there's so many people. You will find community there. So come out and join us. And, of course, the pitch is, for the Free State Project, we are trying to build a liberty homeland in New Hampshire. So we're trying to get people who love liberty to move and join us. So you never know. Maybe you come out for Pork Fest, you stay for a week, you find out you love it so much, and you end up staying in New Hampshire for a lifetime. So that's the goal. But even if you just come to visit for Pork Fest, you will not regret it. You will regret it if you miss it, but you won't regret it if you come out and join us. You'll have a wonderful time.
Well, I know, Eric, several of the people that you have speaking this year have been guests on this very show, so I know my audience would love to check out Pork Fest if they're not already. On that note, we're out of time, but we would be remiss to not do the bonus round. So I highly doubt that you've seen too many episodes of It's Too Late, but in case you haven't, we always end the guest segment with a bonus round. Are you ready?
I guess so. I have no idea what's coming next.
All right. 3 questions. Number 1, not who will, who should be Trump's VP?
I mean, who should? I mean, I would say Rand Paul would be the best VP.
Rand Paul.
It'll be a loss to lose him in the Senate, though. But talk about an insurance policy. For vice president, you want someone the deep state is more fearful of than you, right? If you pick someone like Nikki Haley, what's going to happen? They're going to find a way to get rid of him and put Nikki Haley in there, who will do their bidding. So Trump, be smart, pick a libertarian, and you won't be. I guarantee you won't be assassinated.
All right. That was who should. Who do you think will be Trump's VP?
Who do I think will? Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Don't you dare say Nikki Haley. My God. Don't say it.
I hope he's smarter than that. I mean, frankly, if he picks Nikki Haley, I think that would show me that he hasn't learned his lesson, and maybe I wouldn't end up voting for him. Maybe I'd go to Bobby Kennedy. I just hope it's not a neocon. I just hope it's not a neocon. So who will? Probably a more realistic choice that's still on my short list of people who would be acceptable as VP would be Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, a real out of the box pick, but is still someone who I think is within the realm of possibility, but hasn't been talked about. Be someone like Colonel Douglas McGregor, who Donald Trump brought in at the end of his administration to try to wind down the war in Afghanistan. Anyway, but those are still aspirational picks. I don't know who he will. You can't predict what Donald Trump's going to do.
All right, final question. If you order a vanilla soy latte, is a vanilla soy latte a 3-bean soup?
I have no idea. Wait, so because you're saying a vanilla soy latte, so is vanilla a bean?
It is.
And soy is a bean, obviously, and I guess it is.
That is correct. A vanilla soy latte is, in fact, a 3-bean soup. That might be the hardest question you've had to answer all week. Eric Brakey, thank you so much for being on the show. I should have had you on a long time ago.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Alan. It's not too late.
All right, guys, we're going to be back to wrap up the show right after this commercial break. Don't go away. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. Like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can follow me on Twitter. It's twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. But if you're more of a listener than a watcher, guess for favorite products, Spotify, it's too late, Alan TV.
All right.
Dave, do you have a final thought?
I have to wait for my button to finish before I do. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it was a great interview.
What the hell's that?
I don't know. Just in case.
It's the real producer sits there.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay. I tell you what, Dave, you did a good job tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had some obstacles to overcome, but I think we did all right. Yeah.
Don't worry. I'll switch all the way over to this scene so I can turn the camera over. Yeah, you did a good job tonight.
Oh. Thanks. That feels good.
Yeah. See that, guys? Dave likes it when I shower him with my warm, sticky praise.
Wow. Wow. That's graphic.
What do you think? After party?
Yeah, real quick. We can finish our conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, me and Dave were car shopping the whole time. Apparently there was a hype train on.
Nice. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching another episode of It's Too Late, and we will see you next week.
Oh. So what'd you guys talk about? It's good. I'll have to check it out tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, you can let me know tomorrow what you think. You know, you used to tell me, you used to text me and say, "Hey, I liked this," or you guys talked about. You don't do that anymore.
No, they took away my earmuffs. I can't. It's hard to listen to a podcast anymore. But I'll make time.
No, you won't.
That's the only way I'm going to prove myself. Review the tapes.
You're such a liar.
Start